Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to sculpt a body in Nomad Sculpt. The first thing we're going to do is use a sphere and size it to the top of the torso here. I am following along sort of like a tutorial I saw by another sculptor, and I have her video in my recommended watch section, so go and check that out. It's very similar, but instead I'm going to be doing it more like a doll instead of doing each and every single part, ligament, muscle in the body. So the first thing I'm doing right now is creating the torso. I'm creating the shoulders, and then also having the neck. I'm using the move tool to adjust the spheres, or not, no longer a sphere, but to adjust this organic shape to fit the torso of this body. And you don't have to do this specifically perfect, just make sure that it lines up to your reference. This reference I created in Procreate, and the body posing that I'm using, or the body I'm using, is just the basic body size that's in the Magic Poser, which Magic Poser is a great tool for posing and finding references. Right now you see me creating sort of like this indent, or not indent, but inflating this little hole for where the shoulder joint will go, and this is where we will insert a circle for the shoulder. So this is the joint that we will be using to move the entire arm. Once we get this shape completed, we're going to go ahead and create the stomach area, or like the second part of the body. And the point of doing this is that so you can move the hips back and forth, side to side with this model, and like you have total full adjustment, sort of exactly like how you have in Magic Poser. So for the stomach area, or the lower belly area, we're going to use another sphere, and we're going to condense the height of that and then also the width. When we go to the left, and we're going to slightly tilt it so that it fits that little area right there. Make sure it matches all of our indications in the reference, and then we're going to use the move tool to pull out the edges and make sure that the shape fits or is similar to the shape that is in the reference in the background. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, just make sure that you fit it to the shapes. And then also it's important that you're leaving that little curve at the top. You do not have to touch the curve at the top, because this is where you connect it. This is the part where you can use the gizmo tool to move the hips or the pelvic area back, and it'll still have that roundness to it when you move this body part. We're going to turn off solo mode and then make sure that this bottom part of the belly matches the top of the torso or the chest, and everything fits with the reference in the background. After we do this, we're going to go ahead and add the shoulder joints, the connection between the torso and the arm that we will be using to shift and move the arm up and down, back and forth, around. And we're just going to do this by inserting a sphere into that little dip in where that we created earlier, and we're going to match it to each reference and move the sphere to fit the circle that's in the reference. You can, or I do recommend you save each view, and you can do this by pressing the camera and then you do add view. So whenever you switch between each view, you can just select your view, like front, back, left, and it'll switch back to that view, and it'll make the process entirely easier throughout this. Now we're going to create the pelvic area, so like this underpants area, and we're going to do the same thing before. We're going to decrease the width of this sphere, a new sphere that you added, and then we're going to match it to the shapes, or yeah, the shapes in the reference by tilting, and then also using the move tool to make sure it fits in. And then we're going to pull this area out, and where you see the legs, that area is going to be dipped in, so it's sort of like how we did for the shoulders. It's a place where the thigh is going to be tucked into that little dip in there. We're pulling down the front to create that peak or V shape, and then we're going to make sure it fits to the top, to the top two parts that we did before. We're also going to pull down the bottom to make sure that it fits the bottom of the shape in the reference from the back. And we're just making sure all these shapes fit within the reference. It doesn't have to be perfect, as I said before. Just make sure that you get proportions as similar as possible, and you should have something sort of like this. Make any adjustments to make sure that the pieces are connected together. They don't have to be specifically like seamlessly. Just make sure that they're fitted and the proportions are equivalent with the other objects that you see here. This is what you should have so far. Now we're going to do the thigh, and we're going to do this by adding a cylinder. We're going to go into primitive, and we're going to post subdivision, raise that to 3, 4, or 5, depending on how like curved you want the edges to be. And then we're going to lower the typology to 4, and then we're going to increase the radius for both ends, increase the top radius, and then decrease the lower radius so that it looks sort of like a upside down teardrop, or like, I don't know if you ever seen like a how they make prosthetic legs. Make it like that shape so that it's tucked in that little dip we created earlier in the pelvic element or object that we created. We're going to mirror these two objects. We're just going to mirror them. We're not going to duplicate or create an instance, just mirror it for now. And then we're going to adjust it to the knee area. You see that the bottom of this area where the knee is, the back is tilted up a little bit more. We're going to indicate that, and then we're going to use the inflate tool and the flatten tool to tuck that in and make the dip in the leg. The same thing we did for the shoulder area. This is where the joints will be going. The type of model, or yeah, adjustable model I am creating is like a doll, like how you have all these parts connected. So the thigh, then the thigh is connected to the lower part of the leg with a sphere. It's like that, so it's easier to manipulate than any other models I've seen. So when I looked at the reference video that I have in my recommended watch, she goes ahead and she creates every single, or not every single, but every ligament in the body. So like the knee, the bottom part of the leg, the pelvis, the torso, the stomach, the breast, the shoulder, the neck. She goes really into detail of how to create this. So I do recommend you guys go and watch that video for more detail in creating the human body. Right now you just see me add a cylinder to create the bottom part of the leg, and we're going to do the same thing we did for the thigh at the top. We're going to lower the typology, raise the subdivision, and we're going to increase the top part of that cylinder to match the width of the knee, and then decrease the lower part of that cylinder to match the lower part where the ankle is. So make sure you do actually like really go back and forth between each. That's why we have all of these three sides of the body, and make sure that the object does fit in there. Just use the move tool. Sometimes it might get a little wonky. It's okay. The proportions or the reference is there just so that you can have similar proportions, or you get the proportions right to how like an actual body is proportioned. We do the front, left, and back view. We don't need to do the right side. Just make sure that you have these specific sides so that you're able to get these proportions as close as possible to a realistic body shape. So as you saw, we pretty much did the same exact thing that we did for the top part of the leg, so the thigh. We created the dip where the ankle is, and then we also created the dip where the knee is. And this is where we are going to be placing our joints, or the knee joint. We just call it knee joint. So that's just the same thing we did for the shoulder. We just insert a circle, and then we're going to move that circle up and fit it with the, or insert, or move that sphere up and fit it to that circle shape in our reference. This is what it should look like so far, with everything matching up. Make sure that you do close those little gaps that you see in there. And the point of doing this is that like when you're going to move your knee or move the bottom part of your leg, that back side of that sphere is open, so you know that that's how far back your knee goes. And then the knee in the front's connected, so that's where it's telling you like you can't bend your knee anymore right here. Now we're going to create the arm, and we're going to add a cylinder, and we're going to do the same thing we did for the thigh and for the lower part of the leg. We're going to increase the post subdivision and decrease the typology, and then we're also going to do the same thing where we increase the part closer to the shoulder and then decrease the part closer to the elbow. And we're going to fit this in with the reference that you see in the background, and each part we're going to make sure that it fits to our reference. Make sure to mirror this. Do not instance it. I say it again because this is where, if you want to create sort of like an adjustable body, which I will show you in the end what I mean by that, you want to mirror it so that you're able to adjust each part or each element, and it will happen to both sides, and it'll be symmetrical. And then after you finally like finish doing all your adjustments to the body size and the type of, how wide or thin you want the body, then you will validate the mirror and make sure you keep that instance. So when you do that, you're able to move each limb. But before doing that, all your proportions are the exact same. You don't have to worry about your proportions being different in any way. But we're going to get into that towards the end of the video. Right now, we're going to be creating this part of the arm, doing the same exact thing that we did for the leg and for the top of the arm, with the typology and making sure that all of it fits within the diagram in the back. Nothing specific that you need to do, just make sure that each part fits within there. Doing this in real time so that you guys can follow along and make sure that I'm hitting every point and you guys can see what I'm doing to make sure that you get something similar to this. After this is done, after you've created your indent in that arm, like you've seen before, insert your elbow joint, I call it elbow joint, and make sure it fits in that little area. And then that's how you get your arm. Same way you got your knee. All these joints are the point of movement. So when you go and want to move the arm, you tap on that shoulder joint and make sure all of the other elements attached to that are connected beneath it in your layers. So when you do go and move that shoulder, that entire shoulder joint moves and shifts. For the chest, we inserted 2 spheres and then we made them smaller and mirrored them. And then we're going to create sort of like a little teardrop shape for the chest as well to make sure that it's connected. And then we're going to push this down here and just attach it to the collarbone area up the top. After you've done that, we're going to go ahead and create the neck. And for the neck, we're going to add another cylinder. And the neck is pretty simple. You don't really have to do that much. Add the cylinder, resize it to fit the diagram or the reference shape for the neck. Use the move tool to push or curve that back of the neck, and then also to move it down in that little dip that you see where between the shoulders, where up the collarbones, that little dip there, that is where you're going to pull the neck down to sort of blend into that area. This is your final project. I did not include the head and the feet in this because I already made like I have a hands and feet tutorial that is being posted, and for that hand and feet tutorial you just take those hands and take that foot and put it in, and then you just mirror it. So now we're going to go and talk about why I also do not include the head in this. This body I'm going to be using for any type of sculpt I do it for a female, and I added like adjustable settings to it so that when I do want to adjust the body shape, I'll just go in and I'll make the thighs bigger or the stomach bigger, and change any of the size of the elements in this, and there, that's just it. You don't have to worry about making another body shape. Just smooth down the edges to make sure that the portions fit together or they blend together, and then that will be the final product. You can get this specific model in my Gumroad if you do want this model. This is an adjustable posable model, so you can adjust the fingers, you can adjust the toes, all of it. I hope this does help you and this video was very helpful. Please let me know down in the comments what you guys think, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment below on anything else you want me to teach you. Again, the hands and the feet, there's a personal video for those two, so you don't really have to worry too much about that. I also have videos on doing the face and doing the head. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends. I'll see you guys next video. Bye!